Well, hello people, and welcome back to part 12 of the build guide 2. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you so much indeed for all the support last week. You guys really enjoyed our farm, and as always we had some fantastic comments, including actually applying a heavy traffic ban to Fields of Golden, which we are absolutely going to do. This way we're just going to force, we'll just make sure actually they can get back to the highway. That will be a pain, but this way we're going to make sure that they actually come down and onto the main roads that go into the farm rather than all this farm traffic forcing its way through the village. So hopefully that should make us a little bit more realistic. So thank you again for all the ideas and suggestions and kind comments. And we also had some great suggestions as well of how we can include the furniture factory over here. So once we come back over this way, we will definitely work on the furniture factory complex and include it probably against the highway here, I imagine. But definitely as part of this sort of general overarching industrial area. I'd also like to do some fun cargo traffic or cargo train stuff through here as well. Once we get out of that way, but today's episode we are heading right back over from whence we came, because we're going to start today's episode with a time lapse. But first we're going to talk exactly what's going to happen. So I want to sort of work on this little slice of pie here today, right? Sort of envision the pie sat against the metro line, and then the crust of the pie would be this pedestrian road. I just want to bring all our networks over, talk about what's going to happen with the cycle highway as well alongside. We're going to build sort of a waterfront corporate plaza today in an effort to start transitioning into high density as we move closer towards the downtown landmass. But we need to start with the time lapse because there's a lot of uneven terrain here. What I am going to do is actually grab the height of the riverbank from this side and then make it this one as well, okay? Because I want this to be sort of the same height for what I eventually want this to look like. So either way, we'll move into a time lapse and tidy everything up before we start building. So we'll be right back. Guys, so let's have a little discussion about what's happening here and why we've gone with this particular configuration. So we've had many comments over this series that this cycle highway is not particularly safe because they're crossing over junctions, which I totally respect. It's not, but thankfully we don't have to worry about that in cities. But it is something I'd like to factor into the planning. So my thought process here is as people head further and further into downtown, of course, this will start becoming high density as we come towards this waterfront and over here, and you know, everything else will be towers, etc. I want these toll booths, which I think came as part of Sunset Harbour. I'm sure Editing Egg will leave an annotation on screen to confirm that. But I want these to essentially function as like a congestion charge. So if you want to take a car into downtown, then you have to pay. However, if you want to walk or cycle or take public transport, then of course it's free. You can follow the tram road down, which will eventually cross the water, or take one of the cycle highways here, which now separate, and we will keep these separate now, and then allow the cycle network to flow in and around the downtown. So it's going to take a while to come together, but it should look pretty cool, I hope. But yes, this is what we'll do with it. And then over to the left side here, we're just going to bring out this residential, I think, because once we get that demand in, this is just nice, easy zonable suburbia, so we'll definitely get some more mid-century modern stuff down this way. But now I'd like to turn our attention towards the main build, as there is another, is that a cougar? I think it is, isn't it? Yes, he's escaped from the park, actually. And we haven't checked the hunting grounds for a little bit, have we? Is there any more animals in here? Yes, there is. What's that? The deer is back. The carnivorous deer. Was it the deer that ate the wolf? I think it was, wasn't it? The deer ate the wolf, and then I'm losing track of the lore already. I remember that the deer was carnivorous, but I can't remember if it ate the wolf or the cougar. I can't remember. You guys will have to let me know which one it was. Alright, cool. So now let's turn our attention towards what's going on this way. So of course we're going to be working with the pedestrian area today. So first thing we want to do is actually chuck down a service point. So let's go ahead and just have this one here for right now, right? And then we'll push this down towards where we want to use today. So we're going to be using some of the skyscrapers today from the skyscrapers content creator pack. Definitely one of the better ones, especially if you're on console, because you don't have access to some much more realistic towers with this content creator pack if you're playing with just the vanilla stuff. So definitely worth picking up. Again, links down to Instant Gaming down below if you want to go ahead and support the channel as well. Get yourself something cool in return. All helps. So now let's start piecing together our kind of perfect corporate plaza. And again, this is really going to contribute into that crawling height that we experience, okay? Kind of like we are now. So we're going to place our towers and then come back and check this view to make sure that we are happy with it, all right? Cool. So let's just work from left to right. I've also gone with this content creator key as well, the one with the steps. I think this is pretty nice. It's going to go nice with this plaza that we want to do here today. So let's come in and grab some pedestrian roads. I'm going to stick with mainly bluestone for this. And let's draw up one edge here. Okay, and then I'm going to pick out our first tower. So let's come into the content creator stuff, scroll down towards the skyscrapers. Now another one I want to use here, it's kind of a thin, narrow boy, and we had a lot of fun with it in New York. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce that, because I know it will end up in egisms, so we'll leave it there. Alright, but it's a nice tower, isn't it? Super thin, very neat looking, and I don't think it's going to be out of the question to have here. It's going to give us a very important drive-by as all our passengers pass by on these roads eventually, and our tram comes down between them. It's going to have quite an important feel, isn't it? So that's going to be asset number one, alright? So we're just going to use the regular bluestone road to hold everything here, and once we come together to piece it all in, we should be okay. So I'm going to leave a little space here, because I think that a little bit of amusement park pathway with decoration, so it doesn't have to be amusement park path really. Any sort of path with decoration can be welcome occasionally. And then if we upgrade that, just next door to it, it's not going to be the most hideous thing, is it? We can definitely get on board with that. It's going to be a nice bit of colour as well there. There's also alongside added in some lights, bins and benches for us as well, without having to do it manually in vanilla. So a very simple trick, but quite effective thing, alright? It's going to give us some nice trees next to that tower. It's going to sit nicely on the waterfront for me. So as we're playing with high density vibes, I want to make sure that we continue to respect that in terms of the infrastructure that's been introduced. And what I would like to have happen here is for a underground metro station to now make itself known, because this will flow into downtown eventually as well. And of course, one day give us an incredible amount of walking porn, which we're all here for, aren't we? So again, the position of this is just as important as everything else. I want to make sure that I'm having that exposed little hole that comes in this content creator pack to be flush with the pedestrian road. So we'll just keep moving our frame back until we can find that. These content creator stations can be extremely awkward sometimes. They have a very weird snapping behavior. You kind of see how they bounce around a little bit. So we're just going to leave a little bit of open space and try and eyeball it roughly into the center. Probably about there is going to be acceptable for me. Cool, yeah, and then we can detail this up hopefully with perhaps some nice tree patterns might be welcome here. Maybe a little bit of California palm. Some detail, etc. We'll come to this in the end. Okay, but now in our continued effort of moving left to right as we develop our plaza, a little bit of public transport is going to be really welcome, okay? Cool. So now I'd like to start bringing in a unique building, which we're going to have quite a fun time choosing this one, I think. So let's come into our uniques. Now, I think I'm going to go with the festival area, alright? So, cool, unique building, this one. It can be a little bit awkward to use at times, I think, and one of those times could be right now, but we're going to see if we can factor it into this little plaza here. So I know that eventually I want my trams to also turn around here as well, and I do know that I want this road to extend down just a little bit further. We'll worry about what sits down there in a little bit. Okay, but I definitely want this to be orientated in the right fashion, so let's come down this way. So we can actually delete that one now, and because it's so close to the pedestrian roads, it actually doesn't need its connection. So whether or not we actually redraw that in at a later date, I'm not sure. We might do some detailing here. I guess we'll see. But it does remove that node for me, so I can now draw this one across because I kind of want the concert hall or festival area to take priority. It's going to tell you it doesn't want to be relocated, but it does. It just has to be replaced because it's in its own way, essentially. Okay. So now we have this concert hall. So I'm imagining, in this kind of corporate business plaza here, that's part of the luxurious waterfront with the cougar sat here watching the gig, that, just this little pop-up concert area has popped up in the center of the plaza, where there's sort of towers around it in business and commercial, and there's maybe, it's not always festivals, perhaps it's sometimes talks or art or theatre that's put on here, but it is kind of a public exhibition space, if you like, okay? That's really what I want to use it for. Yeah, great. There's some really good things you can do with the festival area. Few Candy has one of the best festival builds in Oregon. Just like insane. If you love walking porn, you'll struggle to find anything better than that. I'll leave it linked below if you want to check it out. Cool. So now we've got our festival area in. This is great. I'm going to add a... do we need to let the game play for you to register your service building? There we go. That's better. So now let's carry on moving across the street here. Okay, so I want to start placing some more towers, but I really want to essentially respect the plaza here, alright? So I want to throw in a little flower plaza from Plazas and Promenades. These are great little assets, these ones. We do want to make sure, though, that we are indeed in sync with the grid, because that will mess with our snapping here. Let's go for that one, should be a little bit better. There we go. Cool, so we'll have that one in. Let's jump in now and grab another tower from the Content Creator tab. Again, I think I know which one I want to use. This is going to be one Montgomery. It's not too dominant. I think it's going to be okay. So what we really want to respect now, right, is these kind of look a little bit jarring on their own, right? But we're starting to develop height now. We want to start transitioning to that high density. And we definitely, it fits in a lot more from this perspective, doesn't it? And then if we kind of fly back, to the opposite side of the city now, near like a complete functioning waterfront, they blend in very naturally, don't they? And you can imagine once the main primary skyline is behind it, it's all going to keep adding to these little layers. So, I'll always say it. Keep checking from different angles and make sure we're happy. And I really like these two pops of height. It's starting to form that transition, isn't it? Very nice. Wonderful. Turn our attention back towards the front of it now. So again, let's now form our tram turnaround point if possible. We will grab our tram roads and bring it up the side. And then we're going to have to go one tile deeper than we would ideally like, but that's okay. Let's go for that one there. And then we can do some detail in here. Perhaps we can let that date palm pattern come back in again that we've got on the opposite side of the plaza. Near the other tower for a little bit of a repeated theme, maybe. I think it's going to be fairly on point, isn't it? I'm happy with that. Absolutely love Plazas and Promenades. It's made like builds like this just so much more cool and interesting. There's just like endless variation. It's so exciting. Cool, and then we can bring out our frames now as well. So I'd like to talk about how we're going to actually enter the area here. So let's bring across everyone together so we're all flush. So now let's have a little chat about how exactly we're going to enter into this area, because we do have a gradient to deal with, and it's quite a severe one at that. So let's just slope all this terrain out, first of all. We're going to do a little switchback road here as well, but I also want to do quite a lot of zoning on the switchback, which isn't something we usually do, but I think for this particular transition is going to be appropriate. So let's grab that little 4-lane road that we've been using, the compact one. Now it'd be great if we could centralize with the... Yes, we can. Fantastic. That's amazing. We can centralize with the concert asset, so let's do that. And then let's just do some very gentle, sensible curves here. Coming up this gradient, we'll try and respect it for the most part without doing anything too major. Yeah, I'm happy with that. It's sort of nice switchback vibes, isn't it? And then we'll hit that road guideline with the curve tool as we come to the top. Actually wondering if we can get a better curve than that here. Let's maybe try go for this one. Yes, I think I prefer that. Okay, and then in an unusual move for me, we're going to actually respect these horrible small zonings here, because I will need to create that transition, alright? So let's go ahead and get them all in, all our favourite shapes and sizes here. I also want to be drawing over a regular district here now as well, because I'd like to also apply the district style for modern city centre. That's going to be wonderful. And then I want to start doing some things here now to bring in some of those larger assets. So I might need to do a little bit of fence work here to break our zone in so it snaps back onto the pedestrian road where I want it. There we go. Yeah, and then lots of this stuff. Okay, so let's get that going. Also over here as well, different sizes here. I'm not averse of different things to come in. Let's also amend our layers now as well. We kind of know where the plaza is going to sit. Let's bring this down here. We do need to connect this back in here as well, which we'll do in a hot minute. Cool. I think what we'll also do, just because I want to see this in action today, is to bring down these roads and just very temporarily hook them into all these ones, because I want to see them get in use for our cinematics. You can imagine what this river is going to look like. Like once everything's in and sort of this area of the city is finished, we're going to have cars coming over here, people walking and cycling, people on the quays, then this bridge and the metro, the train, this suspension arch. It's all going to be very busy and very cool to look at this part of the city once it's finished. But we're a long way from that yet, so let's not get too excited, right? Wonderful, but here is some of our modern city centre stuff. So this is a great content creator pack. You get some much more realistic, high-density commercial assets in compared to the crap vanilla stuff, right? Yeah, so let's keep some of this stuff going in. Again, historical, the ones that you do want. Again, it's important that we do keep track of them. Don't let whatever you want come in and don't let it get out of control. Cool. Okay, but this is what we're looking to create now. I also think as well I could envision more low-density commercial in this section over here. And I'm happy with the service point now as well, I think. Could maybe even move it onto that corner as well if we wanted to, right? Can we push that pedestrian area out? We should also trim back this pedestrian area a little bit too, because they do cost money the bigger they are. Yeah, let's have that one there. We'll have that service point on the corner. So let's let this grow up. We'll let different things come in and whatnot. And hopefully see it come together. What I would like to do here is to break this fencing now that we did last time. Because I'd like to have a little bit of a sort of greenbelt park that spills down from what will be an eventual active metro station. And you can imagine the convergence we're going to get here once this is in. I've been dreaming about it nightly, actually. For a long time now. Just the walkability of Orchid Bay is becoming something of an obsession. So we'll see what we can do here. This should be one of the busier plazas. And then we'll bring this one across. Let's have a road length and an angle, of course. And then I want to save a little bit of detailing room here. Let's maybe go for 3 tiles between that space instead, actually. There we go. Yeah, that's what I want to bring down. And then it looks like that treed road or tree pedestrian road can then actually carry on here and meet up with its old road guideline up this way before it carries on, probably now as a large wide pedestrian road. As this river walk continues, you're not going to be alright. You just want to be redrawn. Are you okay? No, your bridge pillar is in the way. That's what's it. So now hopefully we will see some folks start coming down here to use this little bit of area. Although again we can see we do need to downgrade into path pedestrian road for some sections. I just might do this whole section as path. It looks a little bit weird the way it keeps switching between trees and not trees for the bridges going across. Well, there we go, right? Let's have a little trip down here now. So we've arrived at Orchid Bay waterfront for the first time after a long trip from Ilos or Nubioka, or wherever you've come from. Novarians are banned, they're actually not allowed to travel here. Okay, but then we come into this big plaza, right? The towers are here as well. Really keen to see what these look like at night. All our trams coming through here as well. Hopefully a few people already starting to pick them up as they're way in and out of the city, which is nice. But it is rather enjoyable. Not a massive lover of this connection, if I'm being honest. That's not great. Can we fix that? Yes, we can. We can do that. That's better, isn't it? Cool. Again, let's make sure that I will tidy up the districts come the end as well. We don't want to trigger the neat district gang. Yeah, so let's just get lots of nice ones up here. Same again along this way. But I do want to save a little spot for that pathway to come through that we talked about. So let's have a little look at that. Let's go ahead and grab our slope tool. And then we just want to start pushing things up from this general direction. Whoa, whoa, what are you doing? Let's not have those in. Let's make sure we keep on top of things here. Again, laundromats, diners, etc. All great things I'm happy to have as part of the high street as we keep going down here. Right, you see that transition starting to form now. And how much of a little drop in height as well, you know, dropping down onto a different layer can help with that transition. Almost sort of helps serve as medium density, doesn't it, when it's not sort of on the same terrain level right next to it. Sort of blends that very harsh transition of low to high density. Is what I'm trying to say. I hope it makes sense. I feel like I ramble a lot of the time when I'm trying to explain myself in this game, but we have a nice time, don't we? That's what matters. Cool, so I think we're going to upgrade this to a pathway with lights, just because it's going to need illuminating at dark. So let's go ahead and turn off that road guideline snap as we come into the middle of the grid. That's going to make everyone tremendously happy. As we then loop back up the hill, and it probably deserves a little connection back into here as well, doesn't it? Something like that. And then I'm thinking what we will do with this space now is to just forest it. We'll just have a little sort of forested park as we head down the hill here. So we'll just go all for that. Same here again too. Okay, bring it all through. And then we'll just see what we think of that now, right? Again, it's going to help with the transition. And our metro is going to blend in quite nicely here now too. These metro people are going to get a fantastic drive by this plaza once it's ready, alright? It's very exciting. All the people already walking around. How much of a difference as well, not having pink luminescent octopi plastered all over your commercial makes, isn't it? It's crazy. Who knew? Who knew that one? Keep this commercial coming in as well. Fantastic. So we got room for a bit more detailing around here as well before we head towards today's detailing time lapse, and I think that a level 1 plaza, possibly Statue of Wealth, is going to fit here. Oh, yes it is. It's going to fit. And it centralizes? Oh, yes it does. Yes it does, everyone. Can that be refused? If it fits, it sits is the rule. We can definitely make this work. I just have to reconfigure where the nodes appear on the pedestrian road. With that in mind, let's extend the tram system, because that's what's causing our nodes to snap awkwardly at the minute. And we will then come into the middle of these two, because of course the concert area can just have that gap left between it. It's still going to register as connected. And then that brings my tram connection then directly behind the tower, which means we lose our palms, but that's not a serious issue. And then hopefully you're just a simple case of upgrading. And then should we go for something a bit fancier here on the waterfront? Maybe some palms. We haven't really used the California palm yet in Orchid Bay. But that little reconfiguration of the networks and the nodes there, it is worth it, I think, isn't it? It is worth it. Yes. Yeah, I'm on board with that, I think. Cool. And then we've got equidistant tiles either side. Yeah, we do. We could even bring in them further sort of surrounding pedestrian roads if we wanted to frame the plaza even further, which I think we will do. And then again, I want to mimic this little 3D pattern around the edge of the tower as well, because what I'm thinking we will do here during our detailing time lapse, not only here but across a couple of different sections of the plaza as well, is to actually snap into that grid with a little bit of farm fencing maybe, and then create something of a little tropical rock garden. Let's go ahead and throw down some rocks. Some larger ones as well if you're perhaps feeling a little more dangerous. Don't neglect the vanilla trees. Some vanilla bush will work more than well here alongside a little bit of bamboo, which isn't a tree many of us place that often. I just wonder what the bamboo looks like on the pedestrian roads. I kind of like that, you know. I'm not gonna lie. it's not the worst thing, is it? Let's grab some of Mr. Mason's wonderful coconut trees as well, alongside some of those date palms that we're seeing around the plaza. The occasional eastern cottonwood would also be welcome in this space. Definitely lots of jacaranda. Want that pop of colour. Alongside its sort of colourful vanilla tree counterparts. Some young linden in there as well. City Planner's favourite tree. Which we found out on our Isla stream. And then we're going to go ahead and throw in some roadies in there too, for good measure. Let's come back down to vanilla. And then we'll grab some of those colourful numbers. And then just throw those in at relatively random intervals without too much rhyme or reason. And this should just give us a little sort of tropical rock garden as we sort of walk around the plaza. We've used these before, but they're great space fillers, especially when they're surrounded by this kind of like dense commercial vibe, right? Cool. But I love the way that modern city centre stuff is affecting the plaza design here. It's very interesting. Cool. So we can see here where again I might want a little bit more sort of commercial zone into happen here. The transition is going to be a little bit awkward in this space. We might have to do something here with rocks, or actually even end up entirely removing these zonings here, and actually probably using the fence trick as well to kill the zoning, which will reprioritize the pedestrian road zone, which probably makes it a little bit easier to zone like that. So super happy with how this is looking so far, right? This is like just making me so happy. Just so many people walking, loads of people taking this path back out of town as well, back up to the metro station here, and a ton of people actually walking over this way. It would make sense at this point actually really to bring maybe a bus line further down this bus road now, because it's just going to get used, isn't it? I think. Let's have a little look at the bus situation, see what's going on. So we've got this little golden number here. This is flowing back into Library Park Transport Hub, isn't it? That's fine. There's no point running a bus line just to the pedestrian area. It's not really far enough away. And then the bus corridor sort of goes off into downtown here. So the most sensible thing to do here, I think, is to just bring this bus stop a little bit further up, opposite the metro. Yeah, like that, and then they can just cut around and walk through a little bit. Then you stop back here, don't you, at the bus station? Yes, that's fine. Okay, so we'll use that as a temporary sort of solution now for our bus transport. There you go, see how many people just got off that one and already just want to head straight down into this district. That's great. Let's also have a look at the tram situation too and see where we're stopping here. Because you guys won't be stopping for a while now, will you, I guess? What are you doing over this way? Is that stop really needed? Probably not, because you're stopping down here as well, aren't you? Okay, let's move this stop then. We don't need this one anymore. And then we'll have it stop here, just before the congestion charge point. Of course, if you want to take the car to downtown now, you have to pay. The residents of Orchid Bay are going to be absolutely furious about that, aren't they? Can you imagine? Of course, we're all sat here as city gods building their city, saying, oh, this congestion charge will be great, it's going to reduce traffic, but the Sims are going to be raging. They just want to drive into downtown, but now they've got to pay. Cool, but either way, this is slowly piecing together. I'm really happy with this transition from low to high density that we're getting now, right? It is slowly piecing together, I think. I'm happy with it for right now. So now feels like a good point for some major detailing. Let's go ahead and polish up all of these areas with pathways, fencing and trees. And then we're also going to sketch out some new suburban frame to hold our luxury housing here. I can't never remember the name of it. Mid-century modern, isn't it? Yes, that's the one. This stuff here. The fancy pools is what I'm talking about. I get this here so we can fill this space with more residential demand. And then we should see this nice little pie of Orchid Bay sort of round out here in today's episode. And then I'm really looking forward to developing the rest of the waterfront, getting road networks on this side to move high density, different plazas and themes and parks and walkability, sort of like loops and stations. It's going to be a very fun river, this one, as it sort of meanders into high density in the Orchid Bay. I nearly said Newbie Oak again then. slowly learning that we're not actually in the Noobs Guide anymore. Alright, but let's detail it up, and then we'll be right back. Okay guys, so let's have a little detailing review, shall we? So we brought our little mid-century modern suburb all the way down the hill now into this little slice of pie over here. And also dropped in some car parks and turned this bit of pedestrian road back into actual road, just so there was some actual car parking here. But of course, in true vanilla fashion, they're not using the car parks and all parking on the road. So, welcome to vanilla, everyone. Either way, our bridges are now over the river and we're starting to see those layers now. So in today's episode of sort of transitioning from low to high density, I think when we start doing that, also making your infrastructure transition in that theme as well can help. You know, we've got kind of larger layers now, taller bridges, thicker quays if you like, and the larger pedestrian roads. So the infrastructure around the assets themselves is also transitioning from low to high density. And then as we come into the congestion charge toll booths here, and we've also upgraded this section into a tram pedestrian road with a crossing and then some general detailing and fence linings and trees and stuff. Pretty simple for a tram stop along the line here. Then also dropped in one of Scope's wonderful Welcome to Orchid Bay signs, which of course will hold that eventual view to the skyline. And I love the way that this kind of corporate commercial plaza sits here. The assets in the skyline have really embedded into Orchid Bay. We'll get an impression of the sort of far away view now here. Right now the build is complete. Really cute to see new pops of height developing as that crawl and transition continues to the master eventual skyline, of course, which is going to be really fun to build. Super looking forward to putting that together. And then more residential out here, tree lined the couplet system as it comes up and down, and also there's a little one-way road that cuts through here as well for people to do a little U-turn. If they don't want to take the congestion charge, then this is the last point to get off. And then we come down here, of course the cycle network isn't getting used yet. The road is temporarily hooked in, but of course this is not the final configuration. I was trying to lure some people down here, but they all seem to prefer going this way, which I guess in that case we could just disconnect this one and force them to go that way. I guess we'll see if anyone uses it. And there we go, there's the first person across the bridge, which is pretty cute. I'm happy with that. So there we go. So anyway, yes, the tram line then comes down between, which has been bush lined, and then we emerge into our big sort of open air corporate commercial plaza. Dropped in some tree line pedestrian roads here and used some of the vanilla yew trees in order to line it. And there's also some wall-to-wall office zoning here, which has spawned in a repeated pattern, which from the back end of it makes it look like a longer, wider asset. So I'm happy for that repetition to come in. And then we come down onto the path, and I love this long unique building, this tower. It gives us this sort of nice long stretch of glass in the pedestrian area, which is really nice. And then as we walk out into the plaza space, I love the pops of height here and just all the vibes. You can see the statue. Our metro station is just great. So we've ended up deleting the pedestrian road, and of course it maintains its connection because there's one to either side of it, and then actually dropped in a park info booth in the middle, which is absolutely great. I love that. It's like you're now emerging into the info booth, you know, for the metro station. And then there's toilets here, like city park signs, benches, and of course it's an asset, so Sims are going to knock about here as well. And of course the metro will eventually be active. Right now it doesn't have anywhere to go. Which is a reminder, actually, if we are going to do that, we should turn them off because we won't pay upkeep on them then if the asset is not functioning. So really happy with that. And then our commercial area sits here nicely now, and just look how busy this plaza looks, especially when there's a concert or an event on in the center of the plaza. Super happy with it. Loads of people milling around, and yeah, just super busy. Absolutely love it. We can hear some of the banging tunes here right now. But anyway, you get the general impression, right? So pretty cool, nice open air vibes at the foot of the towers here. Yeah, just super happy with the vibe that's developed with it. Just absolutely love it. Against the waterfront, we dropped in some really simple prop detailing, including benches and bins and a little bird bath over here as well, as a ton of people do get off here. There is people using the keys, which is nice. Don't know if we can see anyone. Yeah, you go, there's one on his way down right now. So it's nice to see the keys getting used as well. There you go. Yeah, they're quite busy over here, aren't they? Especially people using them to get back into this suburb over here. So lots more walkability and desire. Oh, there you go. Yes, they're fully functional now, aren't they? They're hooked in. Great, cool. So we'll of course develop road networks here, but it's nice to see the congestion charge roads continue. I'm really happy with that. Very nice indeed. And as we come back into the plaza, there's plenty more little bits of prop detailing, including a little eatery here with some hedging. Some of the tiles from plazas and promenades with some tables, etc. Statues and tree patterns, things that we're all used to and fond of these days, right? And then cafes from Part Life, info booths again as well with some pergolas and benches, and then a pathway here as well that links under the two bridges, and then back up to the station on this side. I mean, these spaces here, we will save these for Orchid Bay's first live streams once we come in to develop these areas, but for right now, we will just leave them as such. But it's nice to see this river walk finally getting used. There's no one walking quite this far yet, but maybe one day they will actually come down here and back into this waterfront. But it is getting used now, and the riverfront walk is starting to develop. We've filled out a good half of it today, and there'll certainly be some more things we can develop here. I'm really looking forward to how this river develops as it gets grown out on both sides. It's going to look very cool eventually. But otherwise, guys, that is going to do it for today. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. If you've enjoyed it, you know what to do with likes, comments, and shares down below. Equally as much if you haven't enjoyed it, leave me a dislike as well. Really happy with today's transition in height and nice use of unique buildings and modern city centre, and again just the continual walkable themes and ideas. And I'm really interested to see how the AI will tackle our congestion charge thought process as it moves further into downtown. You know, are they going to stop and take public transport from the plaza, or cycle, or walk over? Or will they prefer to just pay and keep driving? I guess we'll find out together as Orchid Bay grows. Please keep all your suggestions, ideas, and comments coming down below. I'm trying to read as many as I can, but I will shut up and leave it there. Let's thank you all so much for watching. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.